All right, check 1, 2. And can we just double check that the audio for my thing here is going to work? Should be okay. All right. So when I transition to my, how do I get that over there?
Okay, but you need, you have a standard.
Oh, okay, we're good. Can we make sure the audio works for the video?
And operate your private cloud.
It works. All right, nice and loud too, fantastic. As much as I love live demos, my friends, not gonna happen today. Okay. Awesome. All right, let's get going. Thanks everybody for joining me today. My name's Michael Roy. I've been with VMware for 15 years. I've gone through a variety of different roles here, just in case you're wondering who the heck I am and why I'm up here talking. I've been with VMware since 2009. I have been product manager for Fusion and Workstation for about 10 years, so that's where a lot of folks know me. These days, I run all of our community stuff within the VCF division. So everything you see at VMUG, we sponsor, that kind of goes through my team, and I kind of lead all of that. We also have this other thing called the VCF Experience Program, which if you've heard of it, that's awesome. If not, talk to your account teams. It's a great way to get your hands on and actually learn VCF without having to deploy it in your environment. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. Obviously, you're not here to listen to me talk. You're here to learn more about VCF. And so the title for this session is going to be a quick talk demo VCF 9 showcase. And so a lot of this stuff you're going to hear redundant tomorrow. So this is a bit of a, foresight. But at the same time, we talked about all this stuff in Las Vegas, so it's not net new if you've been paying attention. Now that being said, I'm going to have a bit of a demo. Normally this talk was actually supposed to be done by my good friend William Lamb. He's not here, so I'm filling in his very big shoes. So hopefully we'll get through, and the demo that we got hopefully continues to explain the story that we're trying to tell here. So I wanted to start with our mission, right? Like, why are we here? Like, what happened after the acquisition? There was a lot of question, and what do we do, and what's going to happen? What's Broadcom going to do to my beloved VMware, right? And the answer is very simple. Hawk's going to talk about it on stage, but it's really doubling down on delivering the best private cloud platform to help customers accelerate innovation. By not having what I used to say 14 business units as one company in a trench coat, now we are really putting all of our wood behind the single arrow of VCF, which means that all of our focus goes into the product integration to make life easier for folks like yourselves, admins, who are actually doing things with our technology. And so, with the mission in mind, we're going to talk about a little bit how VCF 9 is delivering what we're calling a smarter way to cloud. And so I want to share some of the work that we've been doing in VCF and how we're continuing to lead and transform the industry and on the infrastructure landscape. So, of course, I'm sure everybody was excited to see that not only has innovation continued post-Broadcom, but that it's actually accelerating. And that you've heard some of these announcements with VCF 9 in Las Vegas a couple of months ago. Weeks ago? Months ago? What is time? And so VCF 9 and VMware Cloud Foundation is the industry's first private cloud platform that can deliver a public cloud scale and agility while still maintaining that private cloud ownership and helping you reduce not only your operational costs, but bring down that total cost of ownership for your infrastructure. Now, VCF supports customers' digital innovation with faster infrastructure modernization. Marketing people tell me I had to say that. And so, but really what it boils down to you is that you get one cloud. You get one place to manage everything. You're not having to go to 10 different platforms, 10 different versions of things, figure out which version of VCOps works with this version of ARIA, this or that. Everything's going to work out of the box the way that it was always supposed to. So we're really excited about how we're delivering that, but the way that we're delivering it is a little different than before too. Before, we had 14 business units, each with competing products sometimes, trying to occasionally work together, but we never really looked at things from a holistic perspective of how do we build a cloud? How do we operate a cloud? And how do we consume that cloud? These are things that the public hyperscalers have figured out very well. You know, they've abstracted the build. You don't have to think about building, they already built it for you. How you operate it is you click through their interface, or you've got some great APIs. And how you consume those is via those same APIs, or again, clicking through the interface, setting up availability zones, setting up developer API keys, all of that stuff. And that's what the private cloud really brought the familiarity to developers and to infrastructure admins and how easy it can be. But then when you turn around and you go to your VMware infrastructure on-prem, it doesn't feel anything like public cloud. And that's on us. And this is what we're trying to do, is really kind of resolve that and bring that faster, easier way to deploy and operate modern cloud infrastructure on your own terms, on your own hardware. So when we think about how we build, again, it's all about and we'll talk about some of the innovations that we did here, but like what we're doing to make it easier to build, what we're doing to make it easier to operate, and what we're doing to make it easier to consume, while making sure that things are still secure and still operating in that public cloud way on your own terms, on your own hardware. So let's talk about build real quick. So we've worked diligently to understand the challenges around building private clouds. It's not easy. But I'm very thrilled to say that we've been able to innovate a solution here that helps admins take that step from vSphere into private cloud with the minimal amount of disruption. And so I'll look a little bit at what we've done to make it easier for our customers to adopt and unlock the potential of VCF, the private cloud platform, without risking the rest of your infrastructure. So the biggest thing is VCF import. We'll talk about that in the next slide, but it's a great way to import your existing infrastructure into VCF. So you stand up a new VCF environment, you say, here's my old environment, bring it in, and it's now a part of VCF. It's fantastic. Storage scaling and resilience. We introduced vSAN storage clusters as our principal storage model in VCF. That simplifies so much of the stack. And then finally, integrating NSX and virtual networking right out of the box so that you can have virtual private cloud networks very much the same way that you're used to a VPC in a public hyperscaler. So VCF import is an incredibly coveted feature. You may have heard it referred to as brownfield import. I kind of don't like that term, brownfield, you know, whatever. But the idea that you can take your existing infrastructure and have it now managed by SDDC Manager. Right? The SDDC Manager, Software Defined Data Center Manager, is what we use to manage VCF. So on top of the vSphere console, there's this other Uber console, if you will, that controls all of your vCenters at a holistic level. So you can set policies across the board that apply, doesn't matter where you're located, that level of control is available for you. And so it helps organizations transition quickly to the modern integrated infrastructure, and it reduces the complexity and downtime associated with manually migrating things, or even having orphans, where you've got an older version of vSphere over here, your new version of vSphere over here. You told the boss that you've got one cloud, but really, you know, you're managing two different things and you're, you know, making it work. This is a whole new world where you're bringing it all under one truly managed workload domain, if you will. And so it makes it easy for folks to import, implement, and at the same time, it allows you to leverage your existing technology. So you don't have to just like force the upgrade for everything. If you're already in VCF, awesome, this is going to work great, but if you haven't made that step yet, you can move at your own pace. You don't have to go, what we say, whole hog over in the US. And so that's how we build. If we talk about how we operate, we did a lot of innovation here as well. So if we think about the future of VCF and where we're headed with that, we're here to accelerate that transition, you know, from these siloed IT architectures into something that's more unified and that has more of an integrated private cloud solution. Again, 14 business units pretending to be one company in a trench coat versus one actual product that's designed from the ground up to be one product. And so we'll look a little bit at the how we operate things. And so one of the first steps we've made is actually available today with VCF 5.2. Our unified console allows the admin to really break down those silos. Unfortunately, it means that you guys got to learn a little bit of networking. If you're not familiar with storage, you got to learn a little bit of that. But it builds off of the technology and the education that you've already had with vSphere. If you know vSphere, you know ESX, all this other stuff on top of it, it all works, it all plays nicely in the same language, you're talking about it using the same terms. It doesn't feel like you're going to something completely different. It's just adding more to what you already know. And so one of the things that we brought is a simpler and efficient lifecycle management. So what this brings is a centralized control plane that allows you for patching and granular patching with zero downtime. So this is a new feature where we can have these sort of no downtime upgrades of your hosts. With VCF operations, we're also converging all of these diagnostic capabilities into a single experience. No longer do you need all these management packs and, again, versions of this and versions of that. VCF operations, formerly ARIA operations, formerly vRealize operations, formerly whatever it was when we acquired the company. These things obviously evolve. But it's all delivered between that one console. Same thing with licensing. So we have a unified dashboard for licensing as well as compliance and certificate management. So all of that certificate management built in, we know solves a lot of headaches. I know I've had to deal with expiring certs and okay, where do I got to go put this? And you're getting alerts inside of vCenter about things not working. Now with SDDC Manager, you get that total visibility, and the integrated certificate management allows you to remediate certificate problems without having to dig in, SSHing into hosts and like manually doing all this stuff. And so moving on, the last bit is this native multi-tenancy. Now that's a VCF9 specific feature. Now you'll notice that we talked about this session here as a VCF9 session, but a lot of this stuff is actually out already today. And it's only going to get better once we release VCF9 sometime next year. And so this multi-tenancy is going to allow folks to really cut your infrastructure into pieces for your consumers. Sometimes that's business units, sometimes that's external customers. But having that baked in means you won't need like a vCloud director. You can leverage your existing VCF environment or your existing vSphere environment, do the VCF import, and then start slicing that up in multi-tenancy for your constituents. And so, now it's demo time. So I'm going to show a little bit about the VCF console, the new unified experience, and we'll take a look. So again, William Lamb, not here unfortunately. I'm grateful to be doing this talk for him, but he gave us a gift, and that is the gift of demo. So we'll go ahead and play this, and it's got a talk track.
In this demo, we're going to highlight capabilities of VCF9 that benefits our cloud admin and operator persona. We first start off with the new VMware Cloud Foundation install.
There we go.
Which provides a nice and simplified guided workflow for both deploying a brand new private cloud, but also just as easily convert from an existing environment. We already support vSphere and vSAN, but one of the challenges today is that we do not support customers who've deployed NSX. And happy to share, we now are able to convert an existing NSX deployment on the different topologies that have been configured. Again, allowing flexibility of bringing infrastructure that customers have deployed and bringing that into fully compliant VCF deployment. We've also done the same and streamlined our operations and automation components. If a customer has an existing environment, we can go in and take that information in. And for components that they do not have, such as VCF automation as an example, we have also reduced the amount of input that we need to actually deploy these components. Again, making it easy for customers to start with what they've got and giving them a golden path to a full VCF experience. Here we review our summary, and we can also download our deployment configuration using JSON. And this becomes very useful as we can templatize this configuration for additional deployments in the future from an automation standpoint, but we can also take this JSON configuration and source control that for auditing compliance purposes. Again, making it very easy to convert from our existing environment to a full VCF experience. Once our deployment is complete, we take users to the brand new VCF operations console. This is our unified fleet level management for how you manage and operate your private cloud at scale. And we've taken all the benefits of a unified platform and really made that simplified from an operations standpoint. Let's highlight some of the management capabilities that are available. We now have true single sign-on across the entire VCF stack, not just for the infrastructure team, but also in tenants, as they may have different authentication requirements. And of course, we support all the modern and latest identity providers, as you can see here. We've also streamlined our or certificate management, not only bringing in all the different Spark components into one single location, giving you that visibility, but now customers can easily take the expiry policies that have been defined by their organization and codify that into operations. And we've taken that a step further and made this replacement certificate across the core platform stack for vCenter, NSX, SCDC Manager, and ESXi non-disruptively, which is a huge game changer for anybody that needs to implement this. Typically, you have to go and retrust the endpoints, and this becomes very tedious and very costly. And we now make it very simple within VCF operations. Similarly, many customers are challenged today with being able to identify configuration drift, changes that happen in environment, and we now make it very easy for customers to define these golden templates and apply policies to ensure that any changes that are detected are automatically remediated and also fully audited within the environment to ensure that they're always in compliance. And then lastly, we continue to enhance our lifecycle management, making it easy for our customers to manage infrastructure at scale, and even for smaller environments, because we're able to take all of these different Spark components that have traditionally been deployed independent of each other and go through individual lifecycle interfaces and really pulling all that together. So now you have one unified place to be able to plan, schedule, and remediate at scale. And for things like security vulnerabilities, we can actually take advantage of our ESXi live patching capability and quickly roll that out at scale for customers. Again, reducing the overall burden for the SRE teams, which typically becomes a challenge when you have to roll out things like security patches. We've also simplified how we allow customers to really think about provisioning infrastructure and thinking about how to deliver that with developer-ready services. As we create a new workload domain, we have simplified the enablement of the self-service IaaS capability, which really provides a rich set of developer services from virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, storage volumes, and other advanced IaaS services. We have reduced the amount of input that's needed, especially for those who've gone through this process in the past, and really bringing together the VCF platform from a storage, networking, and compute standpoint, including things like virtual private cloud interfaces, and just making it very easy for cloud admins to set up that infrastructure so that it can then be consumed by end users. Once we've completed the deployment, we now can navigate over to our VCF automation console, and a way to then now logically carve up this raw infrastructure and make that available to our different tenants. And what that means is that we now have native multi-tenancy built right into the product, where I can now define different tiers of services, resources, and even availability requirements to all the different organizations within an enterprise or to the different tenants of a cloud service provider.
And that's our demo. I'm grateful for William for making this for us. And it's, sad that he couldn't make it here with us today, but I like to think he's here with us in spirit. Certainly the demo gods agree. All right, so a couple minutes left. The last part that we hadn't talked about, not part of the demo, is consumption. So how do we actually consume, right? Like I mentioned, the hyperscalers have kind of spoiled folks in that they made it so easy for developers and folks who know how to use APIs to consume and deploy resources, workloads, and manage that without even needing a console, right? And so we need a similar experience. If we're going to have a cloud on-prem, it needs to feel like a cloud. And so consumers can also be, they can be developers, DevOps, platform engineers, whatever we want to call it. But it's folks that know how to use APIs, really. And so what DevOps and dev teams tell us is that Kubernetes is the interface that they want to work with. It's a familiar set of APIs. It's got a good CLI. They're familiar with it. Where there's UIs, they work great. There's a variety of different Kubernetes-oriented UIs that are both open source and some proprietary, even on our side on the Tanzu grid. And so you might be interested in infrastructure as code, where we're pushing application specifications files like JSON up into a centralized repository, and then using tooling from Kubernetes to automate the provisioning of the underlying infrastructure to support those applications. And you also want to be able to take advantage of services beyond that platform that would be available in public clouds, but may have been missing in the private cloud deployment. So we're looking for a frictionless, self-service, be able to deploy what they need, when they need it, where they need it, without having to rely on other teams. And this is great where SDDC Manager comes into play, because you can put those guardrails, that tenancy, you can have security policies where you can build the sandbox that the developers can then just go nuts and go crazy in. And you know that it's going to be safe because you've put the rules around what they're going to do. They're not going to go over resources. They're not going to get a $100,000 egress bill because, oops, I left a firewall port open, something to that effect, right? So there's a lot of stuff built in that admins now have control over, again, to deliver that public cloud experience into a private cloud. And so, we only got a couple left, but what I want to mention here is we're not building technology and throwing it over the fence and hoping everyone sort of figures it out. That's not who we are. And so we've built a series of programs, and you're going to hear a lot more about this week, the Private Cloud Modernization Program, where we have a series of different initiatives to help bring customers along in their private cloud journey to VCF. So the private cloud maturity model, if folks have seen me before, I do a bunch of VMUG webcasts. So every Tuesday or so, you might see my face saying, hey, we're talking about this or that this week. And last week we had on folks talking about the private cloud maturity model and some of the tools we use to help analyze an environment and figure out where you are on your journey, how we can have folks thinking like accountants, talking like economists, and maybe even acting like architects while we're at it. But the idea being that, there has to be there's a cost associated with everything, and you want to make sure you're maximizing that cost. So we're making sure that we have tools and services and people ready to help make sure that your organization is consuming and making the most out of your VCF deployment. And that leads us to Jumpstart workshops. The Jumpstart workshops are something you do when you engage with your account rep, and we come on-prem, we come on-site, we take a holistic look of your environment. We have a bunch of tools, like RV tools, that can read your environment and figure out, hey, this is what it looks like today, and this is what we need to do in order to get it to that private cloud. So it gives us some actionable recommendations that help you along your journey, no matter where you are in that path. You're also going to hear some really excited things about VCF certifications that I'm not allowed to talk about today, but you're going to hear all about it during the keynote, and I am thrilled about it. And I will just say that I hope that you guys are going to be as excited as I am for it, because I think it's a real signal that we are investing in our community and in our teams and in your certifications and in your careers. To know that if you get certified with VMware and with Broadcom technology, there's a career ahead of you. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to make this better and easier for you by doubling down on private cloud. And then finally, a lot of free learning and training is available for folks to help upskill their training, right? And so there's a lot of stuff we make online. We have the hands-on labs for folks if you don't have an environment on your own to be able to go and leverage. And we also have some interesting instructor-led training. And that comes back to like our VCF experience program. So if you talk to your account rep and say, hey, we're looking at VCF, we're not sure if it's right for us yet. Can you tell us more? We have a 1-day and a 4-day workshop where in the 1 day, we take 8 hours and we go through, hey, here's what it is, and you have labs associated with it. And then the 4-day workshop, we actually go very deep into every component. We spend 8 hours a day for almost an entire week, Tuesday to Friday, and we go through everything in great detail. And so these are available for free by invitation only, so again, talk to your account reps for that. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind folks of our community programs. That is why we're in the community theater. And so I mentioned we have webinars. I do them with VMUG, but we have 2. So every Tuesday, we have a VMUG webinar, but every Wednesday, we have one through LinkedIn Live, and they're a very similar format, and there's just whatever's the latest that we're working on, we're delivering it through that platform. It's live, and we also record them, and so they're available on demand. We also have some great rewards programs. I think I've seen the last fellow's presentation had a slide up with the Broadcom Rewards and Broadcom Champions program. You're going to hear more about that this week as well. And then finally, VMUG. So within the VCF division, I am sort of the VMUG guy, and I am thrilled that Hawk is so bought into VMUG to the degree where I said, hey, I thank you for your funding, and he said, how much more can we do for these people? Because they are absolutely our bread and butter. You guys are the ones who are taking this next step into the private cloud. We built it, but just because you build it doesn't mean people are going to show up. And so what we need to do is make sure that you guys are enabled, and VMUG is a fantastic way to do it. So you're going to hear some new announcements this week around some changes that we're doing to provide licenses to folks so that you can have your home labs and so that you can have certifications and have all the training that you need on your own. But at the same time, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it's a great way to make community. Like even just attending a UserCon or even attending a local chapter meetup, listening to other folks who might have similar problems, who are solving similar problems in different ways. You know, I know that for example, we had one where we had a bunch of different banks in the same room. And you'd be surprised the conversations, because folks have very similar problems, but they might go about solving them in very different ways. So getting that just casual talk over a beer, it's incredibly valuable just to figure out where to go and have that peer validation. So that's it, my friends. VCF9 is exciting, but most of this stuff is available today. Really, the couple things that are still missing are the NSX import and VCF import, the multi-tenancy, and then some of the governance controls that are going to be coming along with when we introduce VCF9. So if you're ready for that, VCF 5.2 is there for you right now. We can do your import, the SDDC manager is there, the governance controls are there. It's the next step. So if you haven't got there yet, this is where you should go in preparation for VCF 9 coming around next year. So I think I managed to fit that right on time. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending. I really appreciate all your attention here today. And by all means, come hang out with us at the VMware booths over here. And please also hang out with the VMUG folks. I can't stress that enough. We are going to be doing so much awesome stuff with VMUG this year. I am so thrilled for this. So again, thank you all for joining me today. Appreciate it.